Alright, AVC. Time for another video of some recent vinyl acquisitions that I've made. And I mean, there haven't been a lot, but you've probably seen a few of them flashed around on the Facebook page. And there's a few additional pieces of vinyl that I haven't shared in the past. So, first one has just arrived, his most recent. Dark Was the Night. This came out in 2009. This is a Red Hot compilation, which is a charity organisation which puts out records for AIDS research, HIV and AIDS research, and they've been doing that since the early 90s. This is a great 3-album set. Picked it up for quite a good price, actually for only just over $30 on Fish Pond, and so pretty impressed with that. Gatefold. So the packaging is reasonably basic, but it is on fairly heavy vinyl. Pretty good lineup. We've got David Bryan, Dirty Projectors, Fest, Bon Iver, Grizzly Bear, Yes a Year, My Brightest Diamond, who are doing a very good cover of Feeling Good. We have The National, who are the guys that actually put this together. Anthony Dessner put it together. Spoon, Arcade Fire, My Morning Jacket, Dap Kings, Sharon Jones and Dap Kings, Yo Latinko, Siobhan Stevens, The New Pornographers, Iron and Wine. I mean, this is just a who's who of indie, pop in the last sort of 10-15 years. So mostly unreleased stuff, especially for the compilation, I understand. A few cover versions, a few originals. Yeah, and yeah, really impressive record. And I actually had a little research and looked at some of the earlier versions, earlier compilations that have come out by Red Hot, and there's some quite good ones out there. Some aren't so interesting, but I managed to order another one on vinyl. So yeah, really pleased to get that. The Decemberists was another track that really stood out for me on this, and the track's called Sleepless, and I was very impressed with that. And I'm quite like, I'm a big fan of the Decemberists. Like, wow, I've got one of their albums anyway, so, but I do really like them. Speaking of charity compilations, this one here, which is not available on vinyl, but this is 4 CDs from Amnesty International. They did this is the 50th anniversary of Amnesty International, which was the 50th anniversary of Bob Dylan, pretty much the same year from what I remember. So yeah, this has got 4 discs, and there's a lot of pretty well-known commercial stuff on here. I mean, but there's some pretty impressive cover versions. Steve Earle, One More Cup of Coffee is absolutely mind-blowing. And there was another one which I can't remember the name of it. I think it's on the first track, but there's a lot of In My Morning Jacket, Betty Lafayette, Pete Townsend, Patti Smith, Queens of the Stone Age, and then we've got Miley Cyrus, Angelique Kidjo. So I mean, Joan Baez. There's just huge amount of interesting people, and there's some great covers. I mean, you can't go wrong with Bob Dylan's songs. Just can't remember which was that other really good track on here. Where is it? Mariachi El Bronx was the other one who did a cover of Lovesick. That is just mind-blowing. I mean, those 2 tracks, the Steve Earle and that one, are just worth the price of admission. But the great thing about that is you get to donate. You get 4 CDs of fantastic music, and you get to donate to a good cause. So that's cool. Okay, this one here I picked up recently. This is probably the last album they put out for the Velvet Underground. I'm not familiar with it, to be honest, and it's okay. It's different from the earlier Velvet Underground. It's a lot different. I think John Cale had left the band by that stage, and I mean, there's some good stuff. I was familiar with Sweet Jane, that's a cool track. But yeah, I need to listen to this some more. So this is pretty much a brand new, I'm not sure if it's out this year, but a reissue. So I picked this up. There's a department store here in New Zealand called The Warehouse, which is our version of Walmart, I guess, and they've always had a pretty big range of CDs, although not a lot of commercial stuff, a lot of well-known stuff, so not a lot of unusual stuff, but I have picked up a lot of budget stuff there over the years, good for good price. So they're stocking vinyl now, and they had this, and I thought, oh well, I'll snap that up. It's not all that cheap, to be honest, but yeah, worthwhile having. And also I picked up from The Warehouse this one here, another the first one. Now I actually had it on CD, so again this is a new reissue, the last couple of years, but it's got the full gatefold sleeve with it, and yeah, I mean that is just classic. I mean that is so cool to have on. And I mean Venus and Furs is for me one of the greatest songs ever written. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Another one I picked up. I've actually stopped now, but I used to read the Uncut magazine, and I had done off and on for many years. And I actually had a subscription till recently, but kind of got a bit bored with the magazine, and it was the same stuff all the time. But they had free CDs with their magazines, well, kind of free, and so picked up a lot of good music off that over the years. But they really took this one up on their magazine, and so I decided to give it a go and pick this up. So this is a double album, but it's actually only got 3 sides. The last side's got nothing on it. Well, actually, the last side, what does it have on it? Can't remember now. Did it have a whole bunch of distortion or something strange like that? Was that another one I'm thinking of? So yeah, so this was from last year. It's a good album, but I think it was slightly overrated in their reviews for my liking. And I've listened to it a few times. Got a CD copy with this as well. It's worthwhile, but yeah, I'm not sure yet. I'm really still working on it, to be honest. I need to give it a bit more attention, but still nice to have. And I've mentioned before I'm a pretty big Sun Ra collector, but I don't have a lot on vinyl, but I do have this one. So this is from 2014 via Raw Rotario Records, from the Sun Ra archive, and some recordings from 1965 around the time of Strange Strings. Yeah, it's pretty out there. It's not a great album, to be honest. It's very percussive and a lot of echo. I think that, I know, Roger, you're right into this era big time of Sun Ra, and I know you have this album and you probably enjoy it more than I do, but still nice to have a Sun Ra on vinyl. Back to The Warehouse again, and I picked this one up. You've probably seen me flash it around on Facebook. So this is an album that I'd never actually heard in its entirety. I mean, I was familiar, of course, with the Marquee Moon, with the title track had been turned up on many compilations over the years, so I knew that song quite well. But the rest of it I hadn't heard before, and it wasn't too bad a price. The jacket's a little bit damaged, but yeah, that was okay. That was interesting, cool one. And then this one here again is another Warehouse job. So this again is a wow, is it this year, 2015? I think it is. Pretty much a brand new reissue, digitally remastered in 2009. But I think this reissue. But now I understand this is a completely different cover from the original. I think the original cover looked a bit more like that from what I've seen pictures on the internet. And then it comes with a pretty cool booklet with a whole bunch of artwork inside it. That's the centre spread in there. So I'm not sure if that was in the original, and this is a copy of that. So that's pretty cool. I've never had any craft work before. I was familiar with the song, the Autobarn, of course, the title track, all 22 minutes of it. And that actually was quite pricey. It's from the warehouse. I paid $45 for that, so it's actually quite expensive. And then the last two, the most exciting two. So quite a while ago, you know, there's a blog called the Mutant Sounds blog, which used to post a lot of very obscure music for people to download. You know, I mean, they're all gone now. I mean, they're all offline, but the website's still there, and it's a great resource for looking up some pretty obscure music. And one of the very first post they did way back in 2007, which was before I even knew they existed, was a guy called Igor Wakovich, and he is a French, from Russian ancestry, but he's a French composer from the early 70s, and he did most of his work through the 70s, and he was pretty young, he's still around. And there was a CD box set released in the late 90s reissue called Donk, D-O-N-C, and that had pretty much all of his albums he did up to 1979. So it was about a 6 CD box set. And I had been looking around for it because I listened to the samples I had on Mutant Sounds, and I was pretty impressed with it, and I'd read some reviews, and it sounded pretty cool. So I looked around for it and found it online in a place in it might have been Europe, somewhere in Europe, and on an online site for about $350. So it was a lot of money. So I paid it all up and waited, and it never showed up. And finally I got in contact with them and said, what the hell's happened? And they says, oh, well, we've sent it. And then it clicked to them. When I looked at the email they sent me back, it clicked to me that they hadn't sent it to New Zealand, they'd sent it to England, town of the same name where I live. And so they said, oh, bugger. And I checked their website, and I said, well, I definitely filled out the forms properly. I ticked the country box. I actually specified where it's, so there's something gone wrong with the website. Anyway, so we waited a bit longer. They said, see if it comes back to us, and it didn't. So they did give me my money back. Anyway, so in 2012, there was a reissue of most of their records on a label called Favnivgina. I'm not sure where. And so they've re-released them, and finally I've got my hands on this. And this is just fantastic. The originals are selling for $200 to $300 at the moment on Discogs. So I got this off Discogs, my very first purchase off Discogs, and this is a very short album. It's only 33 minutes, but it's like nothing I've ever heard before. It is very impressive, very, very impressive. There's a nice little booklet with a bit of history about Igor, and which is written in English, fortunately, and a list of his works, a discography. So a lot of these records, the other records that he's had out, are all still available on Discogs from these reissues, not perhaps directly from the label itself, I'm not sure. But they're still fetching pretty good money. I mean, by the time I paid for postage, I actually paid nearly $100 for this. I mean, this is in absolute mint condition. It's near mint, and it's absolutely awesome. So I'm really, really happy to have that. That's one of my most exciting and most expensive records. Vinyl records I bought. Now, the next one is local music, local girl. Now, this lady, a friend of mine, introduced me briefly to her earlier this year. He had her previous record on CD, and then I actually heard a track on Chris Walker's New Zealand music show, Counting the Beat. He played a track off this album, which I was very impressed with. But the one that really knocked me socks off was actually, and I don't watch a lot of television, but it just happened that there'd been some advertising. Rugby World Cup's been, oh, go All Blacks, we are the champions, world champions again. Yeah, excellent. Watching the All Black games and some of the adverts, and there was an advert for a local TV program, and they were using the title track off his album for the adverts, and it was like, wow, that's just so impressive. And so had a look up there. So anyway, this lady is Tammy Nielsen. Now you've probably seen this on Facebook. When I got it, I played it. She's actually originally Canadian, but she lives in Wellington, and she's got a couple of kids, and she's busy lady, and she's touring around. She's playing here, and she played here recently. Unfortunately, I didn't realise, and then she's playing here again in February. So I'd like to get along and see her play live. But this is a self-released album. There's only 500 copies made, limited edition on Bandcamp. So I got this. It cost me $50. By the time they charged me $10 just to get it here, which is a bit steep for New Zealand internal postage, I thought. And also the company that's distributing them, the packaging was very bad. It was lucky that it wasn't damaged. It did have a very slight crease just down the side there, so that was pretty shocking, unfortunately. But yeah, this is an awesome album. So sort of, Americana, alt country. She does some ballady type songs, which are very kind of Loretta Lynn, Patsy Cline, maybe you might, think, but the other stuff's much more up tempo, or not so much up tempo, more gutsy, I guess. I mean, the vocals and the title track, Don't Be Afraid, is the one they played on the television, and the vocal on that is just mind-blowing. She has just got a powerful, powerful voice, and just stunning. And the album's a real mix of that, and those tracks that are like that opener, and some of the others is probably 3 or 4 or 5 tracks that are similar style to that. Great, awesome guitar sound, and it reminded me a little bit of Robert Plant and Alison Krauss's Rising Sand album. So if you're into that, you'll probably like this. But there's also a lot of other variety. I say there's some sort of real smooth sort of country ballads, but she does a good job on those. I mean, they add a bit of variety, and there's sort of almost a Latin upbeat. There's a couple of kind of a bit more fun tracks. So it's definitely got a real mix. So highly recommended. Limited edition 500 off Bandcamp. There is a CD available of that as well that she's released on Bandcamp. But again, like I say, all self-released stuff. So there's no label. There's pretty much no numbers on it, label numbers or catalogue numbers on it. So yeah, very impressive album, and really pleased to have that. And it's had a bit of a hiding already this week. So well, that's about me. So not a lot of stuff, but enough to keep me going for 17 minutes already. So hopefully I haven't bored you too much. Got a few more coming. Discogs is proving to be a minefield of brilliant stuff that I used to have and have never been able to find either on CD or on vinyl in New Zealand. So there's been a few purchases and they're in the mail, and my wallet is feeling rather light, so I really do need to ease on back a wee bit, because unfortunately, the Discogs is good, but the postage is anything from the States pretty much cost me $30, and our exchange rate's pretty bad too, and stuff from Europe's costing me $10 to $15 to get posted. So that's a big whack to the price of the record. So it's only stuff that is pretty obscure and rare, and that I'm not going to find here probably locally. So looking forward to seeing those. So I've been picked up several more, and they're on their way, and I'll fill you in about that when they come back. Anyway, I hope you're all well, and we'll hopefully look forward to some comments. Thank you.